Hello and welcome to a new video from the Power Platform Security series. Today I want to have a look at long-term data retention. And what is that? Well, it is moving inactive data to a Dataverse long-term retention store. So the data stays inside of Dataverse, but it gets compressed, it saves some space, and it is there. Why would you need that? Well, maybe because of compliance and legal requirements that you have in your country, especially if you're dealing in finance and accounting. Then of course, I said the data is kind of compressed and the volume reduced, so you save money. And I will come back to that later. Of course, data security. The data is immutable and read-only, so you cannot make a change. And you simplified management, of course. Then what do I need to take into account if I'm thinking about that? So first of all, it works only in managed environments. So that's the first thing. Second thing is the data that you put in this long-term retention cannot be moved back. So they're read-only, you can see them, you can export them, but moving back to life and changing is not possible. Maybe you have heard about rehydration that you know from Azure, and that's not available here. And of course, I said you can export the data, for example, by using Power Automate Flow, by using an app, and so on. And the other thing that you need to take into account is if you make use of this long-term data retention, the data is compressed, and you can do this on all of your tables, except the system tables. Also, you can get attachment and images retained, but the compression for images and attachments is not that big. What is important is that if you export the data basically into this retention store, then you have to be careful about the relationship between the tables. And I will show you this in an example where I did some mistakes so that you can hopefully avoid it. And also, don't forget, if you want to see how much has been moved there, how much data, it might take a while after you can see this in your reports. And important, if you have seen my previous videos about customer managed keys, this feature is not working in these environments yet. It's not supported yet. Maybe in the future, I don't know, but just be aware so that you know. Okay, enough with the talking. Let's check it out in my demo system. Okay, so I'm here in my application, in my demo environment, and I started here building a couple of applications with the help of Plan Designer. And actually that's not the focus here, but what I want to share is here I have a couple of tables, and then I got a couple of applications created. So that's the application, Executive Dashboard, that we will check out later. But before we are doing that, the important thing with these tables is the following. If you are here in my project table, you have relationships to others. So a project is related to tasks. There are usually many tasks related to a project, or a project has different milestones. And if you just use the out-of-the-box feature, then there might be a problem with the long-term data retention, and that is because of this relationship behavior. By default, it's referential. I changed it to parental, and I will show you later why. So that's important. I did that here for the task, for milestones, and this communication that I have here. Okay, so with this in place, I created a couple of projects. I created project 1 to 9, and the other were already there. And well, you might say, hey, where is project 1 and 2? Well, the first project is already put into retention. The second one is currently in the inactive state. Okay? And later on today, it will be grabbed and also put it in the retention. Now, question is, how do we do this with this retention policy and how does it work? Well, let me show you here. First thing is, if you want to work with these retention policies, you need a view. On my projects, I have this view, and I said, hey, put the inactive projects into the long-term retention. And with this view, then you can come here into retention policies. If you don't see it, click on more, you will find it. And then you can create basically a new retention policy. How did I do that? Well, if I click on details, you can see how it looks like. It's a name and then the criteria. And this criteria is important. That's the few that I just showed you. So be careful how you set this up so that you make sure all of your data goes there. And then you define how often do you want to do it. So in my case, it will always run 9:35 every day at night, and then put the data into the retention. You see it's completed here, but if you compare the start and end time, you will see that it takes a while, because it's not a top priority job. It's basically running in the background. And if you click on the run details, you can see what happens. So in my case, I retired the first project, which had 2 milestones and 3 tasks. So that's what's automatically happening with this long-term retention. And then, of course, the next day there will be another run and so on. Okay. Now, the other thing is, once you put this in place, you will see this sooner or later. Here, I just spin up this new environment. So it's just really fresh. I don't see any data. But after a couple of days, you will see here a new node saying, hey, retain data. If you do not want to wait, here's an example from this Microsoft Learn website on long-term data retention. If I zoom in, you can see there will be a separate node, but it will take time. It will really take time until you see that. So be patient. The other thing that I have is, if you want to export things and if you do not want to wait, directly want to check it, there are 2 ways. So first one, if we go into our app, let me try to find my app. Then you see here the active projects. What you can change is, if you click on edit filters, then you can say here change to retain data. You switch this on and then of course delete any other filters or adjust them. And then it might take a while until you see the read-only data that is basically put in this retention store. That's one of the possibilities that you have using these filters. It might take a while. Let me quickly pause. Okay, so here the data, so it takes around 10-15 seconds until you see that. And that's the old project that I see. And the thing is, I cannot change anything anymore. I cannot bring it back to my normal projects. It's just there, it's read only. And that's one possibility how you can check the data. The other possibility is you set up a Power Automate flow. Let me quickly show you how to do that. And before we are doing that, maybe I go in the flow first. So that's my flow. I have 2 branches and I will show you why. So I say here, trigger this flow manually. And then I say, okay, here is this action, perform a background operation. I say Dataverse common, retain data, and then create Excel. That's always the same. So here is the same. The only difference between these branches is the entity. So you see here projects, and here you see the tasks. And the first one is the table, table name, and then you have the different attributes, which are your columns. And where do you get the data? Well, from here. So you go into, for example, your tasks. You select here the column, and then you say, hey, what's the logical name? Assign to, for example, and that's what you put here. There's also an article about it. If you want to read more, it's this one here. It's called Create a Cloud Flow to View Retain Data. I tried to follow it, but it did not really work. So test it out. What I did at the end, I basically had a look at this screenshot here in step 7 and adjusted it manually for my purposes. So really test it out whether this article helps you or not. I found this way the easiest one. And what I'm doing here is then after performing this action, I download things and then I attach it to an email. And when you're doing that, be careful here with the ending. That's an Excel, and then the content bytes comes from the step before. If you're doing that, then you will get an email. And I did that already. So here are my retain tasks. So it's just an Excel sheet. I see the project, I see the description, and the other columns that I want, I did not assign a user, so that's nothing that I did with my data. And then I also can get a list of my projects that have been put in this retention store. So that's another way how you can export this data. Now another thing that is important, and that's why I said at the beginning that this relationship, let me try to find it. The relationship here is important. Yeah. So if you are not doing this advanced option, not this parental behavior. Yeah. So what will happen if you just say, I leave the out of the box referential relationship that you get? Then I did a different test, and let me try to find the app. It's here. So I have a similar application, different environment. Yeah. And what I did is I put my project 1 and 2 into the long-term data retention. Yeah. So here are my projects. 1 and 2 are put in the retention. Yeah. And then you see the task. And for the task, I did not put this relationship. And you see what happens. It leaves orphans. The tasks are still there. The projects are still retained. Yeah. So be very careful when you set this up. Make sure that you have these references, these relationships set up correctly. Okay, so that's what I wanted to share. Now the other thing that is important is, hey, how much money can I save by doing that? Yeah? And what I used for that is this article. So you can find it on LinkedIn. And it basically says and compares storage cost for Dataverse and so on. And if you scroll down at the very bottom, it will say somewhere $40 per gigabyte of data. Yeah? So that's what I basically used. I also checked other sources which give me similar indications. Yeah. And now the question is, how much money can I save? And for that, I did a calculation in Excel. So here's my Excel. The idea of this Excel is the following. Here on top, first row shows you how much data do you have in Dataverse. So that's the gigabyte of data that you have. Now, the important question is, how many % of your data can be moved to this long-term data retention? I said 5%. If I say 10%, let's put 10, then the numbers change. What does 10% mean? Well, maybe you have data that you store for 10 years, and every year 10% of your data go to this retention store. If I put 5, I'm more conservative. Then the data storage, 10 gigabyte in this column, times 5% gives you the saving that you can realize. So in the first column, so here in this column, you can save 0.5 gigabyte. For a price of 40 means you save $20 per month. Yeah? If you're here and have more data, let's say 1000 gigabyte or 1 terabyte, you can save $2,000 per month just by making use of this method. Yeah? And then I said, okay, how much is the cost of a premium license per month? So where did I get this number? Well, let me quickly show you. There's also a website, public one. So if you go here, this is the price that I was taking. And then now, of course, I said, hey, now if I have this saving, how many additional licenses can I get? So I said, okay, I have 2,000 people. 50% of the people have a premium license. The other 50% not. So in my case, 1,000 people have a premium license, can go to managed environments, use all of these things. 1,000 people cannot. And then I make a simple calculation. And it's based on 100 gigabytes of storage. So this column here. So if we just take this column, we say 100 gigabyte of data. The price is 40. I retain 5. Saving is 200. So that's this number. And if the price of one license is 12, I can get additional licenses, basically 16 licenses basically for free if I reinvest this money just for licenses. Okay. And then of course, that's the idea of the calculation. And then I did it for my whole table. So, and that's what I get. So if we start with the first column, I have here a saving of 20. The price is 12. So I can get 1.6 licenses basically for free. And I still have 50% of my people having these licenses. But now it's getting interesting. So if we go into this column with the 1000 terabyte of data, I can get basically from the $2,000 saving, I can get 166 users assigned a premium license. And which increases my percentage to 58%. And now let's play around with this data. So let's say, hey, you're a good negotiator. You can negotiate a price of 5 with Microsoft. Hey, then for this, I can get 400 people assigned a premium license. Yeah. If you are really a good negotiator, let's say you get a price of 2, then you can get 100% of your people a premium license. Yeah. And if you stay in this column, and on top of that, you save some additional money. Yeah. So this is really something you can test out and play yourself. It's very basic Excel things, but it should give you an idea that you can really save a lot of money depending on how many data you compress. So if you increase this to 10%, the numbers get even better and the savings even higher. Okay, that's it. Thanks a lot for watching and listening, and then till next time.